Good morning, stringers. This is Voodoo Stick Mod. I am going to be making for you today a notebook cover. Oops, there you go. A notebook cover for the new Pokemon Face notebooks that is going to have a dangle on the ribbon that comes out of the notebook. And I am going to be using the alternate closure because we all know that came about because I was a pest. And I kept begging Ricky for something, anything that would mean I didn't cut off the elastic on the original version. I will, however, also be making the original version so that everybody can see how to do both options in this video. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the alternate closure parts. So this is a very simple pattern. It was a freebie, and then Ricky started adding it in with the notebook cover files, and somehow something got mixed up when the website moved, and I believe she's going to start putting it back. She's going to put it into the notebook cover files. If not, I'll make sure that it's that she puts it up on the website as a freebie option if it's not in with the notebook cover files when you purchase a notebook cover. So this is really simple. It's literally 2 color stops. So the first one is your die line, so you know where to put your vinyl. The second one is the finishing stitches. So this is really simple. For this one, all I did was I have a piece of vinyl for the fronts. I have a piece of non-fray material for the back. You can use Olifun. This is like a type of waterproof canvas that doesn't fray. So anything for the back that doesn't fray that's super thin. You want it to be thin because if you use 2 layers of vinyl, your closure is going to be really bulky and it's going to be hard to fit the pen or whatever writing utensil in there. I'm also going to need a hoop with some medium weight cutaway in it. So I'm going to place my hoop on the machine and I'm going to run the first color stop. Okay, I have run my first color stop. I did it in yellow because that's the color of the vinyl that I'm doing. I know it's hard to see. I am sorry about that. I am going to place my piece of vinyl on the top. Okay, and I'm going to grab a couple pieces of tape just to hold that in place because I have to flip this over and gravity and all that good stuff. I'm going to grab a couple more pieces of tape and I'm just going to clean up some of these things so they're not sticking out when I cut this later. All right, now I'm going to take my non-fray material, place it on the back, put a couple pieces of tape on here. I'm going to put this in the machine and I'm going to run color stop 2. The closure has finished stitching, and so I'm just cutting off any jump stitches. Alright, so those are all trimmed. I can peel off the tape and take this out of the hoop. Okay. Now I need to trim those. Alright, so I'm going to start by just kind of roughly trimming off a lot of the excess here. Okay. And I'm just going to cut between the 2 pieces. Grab some scissors. All right, so I'm going to cut around the outside of this. that's cut out. Now I'm going to cut this one, and on this one I need to cut around the outside, and I need to cut out this inside piece too. So I'm going to start. All right, so now that's cut out. So now I need to punch the little holes in here. And I have this punch I bought off Amazon, but you can use the kind where you have a hole punch and a hammer, whichever way or whichever tool you have, whatever, that works best for you. Okay, I'm going to punch the holes in this one. Okay. All right, so those are all hole punched. So now I don't need these for a while. So I'm going to set these aside in a safe place. Not that safe place, you know, the one that you can never remember. The safe place that's close by so that you can find them when you need them in a little while. Then we're going to move on to the next part of the pieces we need for this notebook cover. Because if you're doing this, it's a 3-hoop project. If you're only doing the dangle, it's a 2-hoop project. So I'm going to set these aside and we'll be back to do the dangling string. Okay, the next part of this 3-hoop project, which I have made 3 hoops via the alternate closure because I always cut off the elastic. I'm going to need to make the Pokeball dangle that's going to hang off the ribbon that comes with the pattern for the notebook cover. So I'm going to need a piece of red vinyl, and I'm going to need a piece of some sort of backing vinyl. You can pick whatever color. I had this scrap of kind of like textured blackish, so that will work. And then on our pattern, the color stop shows us the first stop is our die line. The next big batch is our details. The last stop is our outline and where we're going to attach the back. Okay, so there's 8 color stops. It's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to grab my hoop. Yes, medium weight cutaway. And I'm going to put this on the machine and I am going to run color stop 1 and then we'll come back. Okay, I'm back. I've run color stop 1 and I almost forgot to tell you, you're going to need a piece of ribbon that's about 8 inches long and anywhere between 1/4 and 5/8 inch wide. I'm using gray because that's what I had laying around. So I'm going to take my ribbon and there's a little die line right here for placement, and I'm going to stick that in there right on that die line, and then I'm going to take a little teeny tiny piece of tape and stick it there, and then I'm going to take a piece of tape and I'm going to tape this up out of the way. Then I can grab my top vinyl and put it over this, and I'm just going to tape this down since it's kind of curly. Okay. All right. And I'm just going to grab the end of this and just stick it over in this tape just to keep it from getting caught on anything. Okay. Now I'm going to put this back on the machine and I'm going to run all the detail stuff. So on this particular design, it is color stops 2 through 7. And then we'll be back to add the back. I have finished stitching all the pretty stuff on the front. So now I'm going to flip this over. And I'm going to put this piece on the back. Take a little tape. And stick that down. Just rub it a little bit to make sure that the tape is stuck. Now I'm going to put this back on the machine and I'm going to run the final color stop 8, which is going to stitch around here and attach the back. This is now all finished stitching. So I'm going to take off all the tape. From around the edges and the back. Now obviously the little piece of tape inside to hold the ribbon in place is still going to be there, and it's going to stay there. That's where it's going to live, because I'm not going to cut this open in order to get that out. All right, so now I have to trim this, but I have to trim it in a way that means I don't cut off my ribbon. So I have to be very careful of this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to very carefully keep the ribbon out of the way and just trim off some of the excess on the front side here so I can see it. And I'm just going to move this ribbon out of the way this way. And I'm just cutting off all this extra stabilizer and extra vinyl from the other sides, because that's going to make it easier if I don't have all this excess stuff flopping around. All right, so I'm going to come in here being careful not to cut my ribbon. Okay, and I'm going to trim around my Pokeball. Okay, and when I get right here, so that I don't cut the ribbon again, I'm just going to trim that off. So now all I have is this part here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the stabilizer, the ribbon, everything back so that all that's hanging out here is the front vinyl. I'm pulling this down really tight, and I'm just going to very carefully trim just the front vinyl, okay? And as you can see, that's a little funky there. I'm going to fix that, okay? Now, I'm going to pull the ribbon to the front. This is the stabilizer and the back vinyl. And I'm just going to trim along there without cutting my ribbon. Okay, and then you can clean up any funny spots that you have along the way. And there, now you have your Pokeball on a string ready to use on your notebook cover. So next up is the notebook cover. Okay, so what do we got going on here? We have the initial die lines. This is going to be your outside die line and the stuff for your ribbon, the die line for your ribbon, and the die line for your fold over elastic if you're using that standard closure instead of the alternate one that I chose. The next part is going to be your tack downs, which are going to tack down the ribbon and the fold over elastic. Then you have all your pretty stuff, which is your details. Okay, on this particular one, because I'm doing the Pikachu face, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 color stops. Your notebook cover, if you are doing a different Pokemon face, may have a different number of colors. So everything except for the very last one after the first two are details. First two are always die line and tack downs. Then you got all your details, and then your last one is your backing, attachment, and final outline. So that's going to be the part that's going to stitch everything together all the way around. Okay, so now that we have all that, what do we need for this? We're going to need a hoop, shockingly enough. We are going to need, oops, guess I already set that up. We're going to need a piece of medium weight cutaway. Again, shocker, I know. So I'm going to hoop that. Then we're going to need some stuff. We're going to need, oops, a piece of vinyl for the front. We're going to need 2 pieces of vinyl for the pocket to hold the notebook on the back. And we're going to need a piece of liner that's going to go on the back under the pockets so that it covers all the stitching. Okay, so those are all the parts we're going to need besides the Pokeball on a string we just made. And if you're doing this option, the alternate closure. If you're not, we're going to need some pieces of fold over elastic that I believe are 3 inches long. Okay, I'm going to go find that because I did not grab that just now. If you're doing this type of closure, you're also going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, well actually no, 2, because this is going to get folded. You're going to need 2 tiny rivets, 6 millimeters, okay? So I'm going to go grab the rivets for this, and I'm going to see if I can find some elastic, because I'll show you that one too, even though I almost always cut that stuff off. So I'm going to go find that stuff, but before that, I'm going to put this on the machine, and I'm going to run color stop 1. I am back, and I have stitched the die lines for the notebook cover. Now, if you are doing one with fold over elastic, then what we're going to need to do is take your pieces of elastic, fold them over. It won't hurt to singe the edges so they don't fray. And then we're going to stick them. My elastic's a little wider than what's called for because I ran out of the typical narrow size. And then I'm going to tape, oops, actually that tape, can't see where the line is there. Okay, and then I'm going to tape those down where the die lines for the elastic is. That's taped down. I'm just gonna fix this one because I noticed it's a little bit crooked here. Okay, so those are... Now that you have all your elastic taped down, you're going to grab your Pokeball on the ribbon dangle. You're going to actually place it with the pretty side of the Pokeball up, unlike you see here in the video. I had to go back and fix mine later. You're going to use a little piece of tape on the end to just hold that in place. Just like that. And then you're going to take the rest of the Pokeball and you want to tape everything securely out of the way so that nothing gets hung up on your machine when you're stitching the rest of these parts. Now we're going to run color stop 2, which is going to tack down all these little parts I taped. So put this back on the machine and run color stop 2. Okay, all of our outside appendages have been tacked down, so I'm going to take off the tape from those items. Okay, and the next step is going to be to find the piece of vinyl that you wanted to use for the front and lay it on here. And you're going to want to kind of, I just like to make sure that it's all pretty well even all the way around. And then I'm just going to tape the corners down to make sure it stays in place. Okay, and then I'm going to put this back on the machine and I'm going to run color stops 3 through 8 on mine. So basically everything except for the very last step. Okay, and I'm just going to pull in, I have another sample here of one I'm doing that does not have the fold over elastic, so I can use that alternate closure option. And again, just at this point, I just need to place the front vinyl and run everything but the last color stop now. Okay, so the design is all stitched, and now what we need to do is add the back parts to this, which takes a little bit of, it's not just throwing it back on, it's a little more involved. So the first thing I need to do is I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to grab a ruler, and I need to mark where these placement lines stitched on the stabilizer, because when I put the lining piece on, it's going to cover these up, and I'm going to need these to know where to place the pocket pieces. So now that I've marked those, I could take my lining piece and place that on here. And I'm going to tape that down. On the corners. Okay. Then I need my pocket pieces, and I'm going to use those lines to mark where those are going to get attached. Okay. Oops. Try to keep everything lined up here. All right. I'm trying to see. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So now I need one more thing. Now I need some of this plastic-like water-soluble stabilizer, because we want something on the back to make sure none of this stuff gets snagged as it's getting stitched. And I cut that a little short that way, so we're going to turn it. Okay. And I'm going to tape that down on this side. Actually, I don't like how that's looking there. So I'm going to throw another piece of tape right on that. And I'm going to tape this down. And I need to trim this a little bit here. Okay. Just gonna add some tape there. Yes, it's a lot of tape, but you know what? If it makes sure nothing shifts, that's what I want. Okay. And then some more tapes. Tape all this water soluble down all the way around. Okay, now I'm set. Now I'm just gonna give it a shimmy to make sure all that's stuck. And now I need to put this on the machine again and stitch the last step. Okay, so just put this back on and stitch the very last color stop. Okay, so this is all finished. I've stitched my outline. So now I'm just going to start taking off tape from all my parts that are taped down. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to start peeling this stuff off. Oh, got a tail there. Peeling all this stuff off. All right, I'm gonna pop this out of the hoop. All right, so now comes the part that for me is the trickiest. It's cutting around without cutting these bits off that I want to keep. So the only side you can really cut with a rotary cutter is the bottom. So I'm gonna do that to start. Okay. Now you can do this completely with scissors if you want. All right, so now I've cut that, but now I need to cut these sides without cutting these pieces. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut in a little bit here, like divots, for all these things that have to stick out that I don't want to cut off. It's okay, child, you can come down. I'm making a video, but you'll be heard but not seen. All right, so I've cut all of these around the front. All right, now the not so easy part. I want to pull this up out of the way. Okay, so that I can trim this, and I'm gonna do it with my rotary cutter by just kind of eyeballing it. Okay, but not cutting this off. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same thing on these other sides too, because I can clean this up with scissors in a bit. All right, it might not be perfect, but we're getting there. We can, like I said, we can always fix this. So I'm moving my elastic out of the way. Okay, grabbing this piece. Okay, all right, so at least I've cut, okay, and I've cut the back. The back looks good. So now I just got to clean up the front part. So now I'm going to just take my scissors and I'm going to pull this to the back. Okay. Doing it from the back will make it a little bit easier to see, to match up that edge. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same thing with the elastic on this side. And if I want, I can use my rotary cutter to do that, as long as I'm moving the elastic out of the way. And that still looks a little funky right there. So I'm just gonna push that back and just use my scissors to clean up those pointy edges. Okay. And then here, I'm gonna do that one. That one. Okay, flip to the front, see how it looks. It's not horrible, but it could use a little bit of cleaning up, so I'm just going to do that. Just cleaned up there. Okay, now I need to round off all the corners. So I'm going to carefully do that. And on this, I want to kind of pull my elastic out of the way. Since it's close to the corner there, I don't want to catch it. On this side, it's easier because I'm going below, I'm not cutting toward it. Alrighty. Okay, so now this one is done. I just need to get the notebook and load it in. Grab a pen, slide it through. It has the dangle here. Okay. All right. Got the dangle. I think I actually should have put that the other way, but oh well. You can always lay it down in there and then it can hang whichever way. Okay, so that one's done. Now I'm going to pull the other one over, and this one will be easier because this one only has the dangle on the top. Oops, piece of tape stuck on there, got that out. Okay, knock all that off. Pull this off and that. And now on this one, I can actually use my ruler to cut 3 sides because eventually I'm going to add my other closure. So I'm taking that off. Move that out of the way. This side. All right, now here I need to do the thing again where I want to pull that. Now I'm just going to show you what, if you want to use scissors, you can do that. And I'm just going to go around. Okay, and then I'm going to stop there and just cut up out of the way. Okay, because now I need to pull this stuff all to the back. Okay, so that I can get past this area here without cutting my ribbon. Okay. I should have, yep, I'm going to make my divot because I don't think I went quite far enough. Nope, I did not. Okay. So I'm going to do that. Okay. And now I can pull that out of the way and go across. And around my corner. Now you could totally do that, what I just did, with all the other edges. I'm just going to pull this to the back to just kind of clean up those little bumps there. And then I'm going to round my corners here. Alright, those are all done. Okay, so now this one is ready for the alternate closure option. Okay, so that one's all set for that. Stick that in there. Okay, all right, so now I need to mark my closures because I want to put this on here. Oops, I see a stray thread. I'm going to take care of that. All right, so I want to measure the front width of the book, and this one should be, all right, this one looks like it's about 5 1/4, so I'm going to mark about halfway. Okay, so let's see here. 2.5, about right there. Okay, and I'm just marking just inside of that. And then I'm just gonna use my ruler here to line up along the edge and be able to mark on the other side right there. And now I'm gonna take my punch tool and I'm just gonna punch that hole right inside the stitching line through everything, okay? And same with this side. And now I'm gonna grab my alternate closure and my rivets and I'm gonna feed my rivet through here, through one side of this, through the book, okay? Flip it over, add the other side, and then put the cap on. Oops. These rivets might not be long enough. I might have to get a slightly bigger size. Okay. Nope, that did not work. Okay. Try to get that out of the way. All right. Okay, so that is on there. I'm gonna take this to my press and press it. If you have a press, you're gonna use it. If you have a hammer anvil thing, you're gonna use that. So I'm gonna take care of that and then I'll come back in a bit and show you how this looks. Okay, I'm back. I did the same thing with the single loop part for the front here, where I just put the rivet through the piece, the attachment piece, put it through the book, through the attachment again, put the thing on, use my press. So now I can just add my notebook to both of these and my pens, and they're, whoops, and they're all set. That one doesn't want to stay closed right now. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the Facebook group. The design can be purchased at www.stringtheoryfabricart.com.